Right, welcome to this extra lesson of the course. This is the final lesson of part one, and it's a methodology lesson, a sort of a new method. This is not aimed at any particular band score. It's aimed at anyone really wanting to understand IELTS questions and how Cambridge designed them. But specifically, I've used examples from part one because it's the best way to illustrate this method. Again, it's a method and way of looking at things. So, it's about analysing questions. Many people come back from the tests with lots of question sheets, questions. Oh, my friend was asked about restaurants. My friend was asked about this. You'll also find many, many, many IELTS questions from part 1, 2 and 3 in books like Cambridge 14. A lot of people come back saying, I must know about the last topics in the test. What were the topics this January in my IELTS test? This is a misconception. You must not know about the latest topics in the test. So in this extra lesson about methodology, I want to teach you, or I want to push you to looking and analysing questions in perhaps a different way so that you can really, really focus on what's important to answer them correctly. So it's not about knowing the latest topics. It really is not, especially in part one. It's about analysing the questions. Now, let's take a step back. A question is about a topic, yes, a question features a topic, and is really a question type. So, questions can be described as about topics and question types. So we should not obsess about the topic. We should prepare for question types, not questions themselves, not exact questions, but types of questions. So we should prepare for topics and question types. But what does this mean? What is Oliver talking about? What is a question type? So, a question type. Let's look at the difference between a question and a question type. So, how often do you eat in restaurants? Possible answers. I eat out 3 times a week. I eat in restaurants every other day. I eat out with my family every weekend. I don't eat out often. I cook at home most days. Very often, I love eating out. Rarely. I don't have much time these days. Always. Nearly every night, I eat out. So these are possible answers to the question. So what's the question? How often do you eat in restaurants? What's the topic? Many would say restaurants, eating. Look at my possible answers. I eat out 3 times a week. I eat in restaurants every other day. I eat out with my family every weekend. I don't eat out often. I cook at home most days. Very often, I love eating out. Rarely, I don't have much money these days. Always, nearly every night, I eat out. Okay, so these possible answers. How often do you eat in restaurants? You could also, you could say, again, I'm not going to repeat them. So, what is the question really asking? Is it really asking us about restaurants? Really? Look at the patterns. I eat out 3 times a week. I eat in restaurants every day. I eat out with my family every weekend, more or less. I don't eat out often. I cook at home. Very often, I love eating out, etc. What's the question really asking? What do all these good, simple answers contain? Time expressions, adverbs of frequency, to do with how often we do things. That's what is the main feature of these answers. 3 times a week, every other day, every weekend, most days, very often, rarely, always, nearly every night. That is actually what's going on here. Cambridge are actually asking, can this candidate use adverbs of frequency and time expressions for habits correctly? They are not asking you about restaurants. This is how you have to understand what I mean by question types, not questions or topics. So, adverbs of frequency. Cambridge are actually saying, right, this question is testing whether you can use adverbs of frequency and time expressions for everyday habits correctly. What else? I eat out 3 times a week. I eat in restaurants every other day. I eat out with my family. I don't eat out often. I cook at home. I love eating out. I don't have much money these days. I eat out. Present tense. The present tense used correctly. The present tense used correctly in the positive and in the negative form. I don't eat out often. I love eating out. Verb forms with ing, verb forms with bare infinitive. The Cambridge examiner is actually listening to see if you can use time expressions and adverbs of frequency with present tense forms in the positive and negative correctly. That's what's happening here. The question is not about restaurants. It's not about the topic. So, the present simple. Now, this may seem very simple for you because you guys want a high score. But that's the point. Not actually understanding what the question is really testing you and asking you about means that you start to build and practice lots of topic vocabulary about restaurants when in fact all these perfect answers have no specific restaurant vocabulary, because the question type is not about restaurants. It's about, can this person talk about habits in the correct grammatical and lexical manner? Where is the topic vocabulary? Where's the restaurant vocabulary? Eat, cook, eat out, money? Are those restaurant vocabulary words? No. They're words we could use for many, many things. So in actual fact, it's not about the topics. So getting a list of topics from a friend who's just done the test and memorizing answers to them is a waste of your time, because you're not really understanding the test. You're not really understanding what Cambridge are asking for. There's no topic vocabulary here, and they're perfectly good answers. So, do you normally wear a watch? Different question. Do you normally wear a watch? What's the question type, though? Let's look at some possible answers. Work alone for 1 minute. Stop the video for 1 minute and write one sentence, one answer on paper as an answer to this question. Do you normally wear a watch? Do you normally wear a watch? Possible answers. I always wear a watch. Most days I put a watch on. I never wear a watch. I sometimes enjoy wearing a watch on special occasions. I usually put a watch on for an interview. I don't normally wear a watch, but my dad usually does. Very rarely. I don't like wearing anything on my arm. So what have we got here? I always wear a watch. Most days I put a watch on. I never wear a watch. I sometimes enjoy wearing a watch. Again, the question is totally different. But look, present tense forms, adverbs of frequency for habits. Cambridge are doing the same thing. It's the same question type. They're asking you, can you use adverbs of frequency and expressions of time with present tense verbs in the correct form and put these together into a coherent answer? They're not asking you about watches. So you see, a question about watches and a question about restaurants actually features basically the same key vocabulary with a little bit extra, but no complicated topic vocabulary. So make sure you get the language right. Write sentences with the present simple for habits and adverbs of frequency and expressions of time. So even if you got a 6 in your last test or a 6.5 in your last test, if you get any of these things wrong, just a little bit, your score will not improve. But, as I said, this is a methodology lesson. I'm using simple examples to show you the method, the methodology of analysing questions. You can go ahead and then use this on more complex questions. So extending your answer. Let's talk about building on your answer. This is an interesting little trick. Again, this can be used for lower level or higher level students. It doesn't really matter. Extending your answer, making it longer. So we've answered our question, but we want to add something else, because we do, after all, want to get more than a 6. We need to extend our answer. We need to start by making it very correct, but we need to extend it. A good technique is simply to say how it felt or how it made you feel. Simple. You can do this with any answer you give in almost any part of the test. But as a model example, we're using part 1 here. So, you take your initial answer and you add feelings or quality phrase to after adjectives of feeling or quality. So you add a feelings or quality phrase to your answer. So you've given your answer and then you add a feelings or quality phrase. That's a simple formula to extending your answer and showing good English. You can use this for any part 1 answer and a lot of other aspects of the test as well. So, do you prefer walking or going by car? Another different type of question type. Do you prefer walking or going by car? Let's look. I prefer going by car, it's faster. I like walking best, it's more relaxing. Generally, I prefer to go by car. It's more convenient. I don't like walking at all. I'm lazy. Usually I prefer to travel by car. It's more comfortable. I much prefer walking. It's healthier. Neither. I prefer to ride a bike. It's more fun. See what I've done here. I've answered the question in a simple, grammatically perfect manner, and I've added a quality or feelings phrase. A feelings and quality phrase at the end. A short, simple one, yes. Also, so we can fit it on the slide for the lesson. But still, a very, very effective one. It's faster. It's more relaxing. It's more convenient. I'm lazy. It's more comfortable. It's healthier. It's more fun. And of course, comparative adjectives. It's more relaxing, because you are comparing the one thing to the other. Because remember, the examiner's question, would you prefer walking or going by car? So we're automatically using a comparative. So again, I prefer going by car. I like walking best. I prefer to go by car. I don't like walking at all. I prefer to travel by car. I prefer walking. We can use prefer plus to. We can use prefer plus ing. Get the present tense verbs correct. This form is mistaken, you won't get towards a 7. So, present tense correct, use a comparative adjective, add a comparative adjective or a normal adjective to give a sense of feeling or quality as an extension to your answer. Again, these are short versions, but you can do it with many, 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 many answers in the test, and automatically you're showing more language. You sound more like a native, because native speakers always like to say how they feel about something, or how something made an impression, or what the quality of something. Try and use this technique. Do you prefer walking or going by car? What do you like best? Going to the cinema or watching a film at home? Well, I like going to the cinema best. It's more exciting. I prefer to watch a movie at home. It's cozier. I love going to the cinema. It's bigger, better and cooler. Definitely, I like the cinema best. It's more dramatic. I like to stay at home. It's quieter and more private. I like movies on the big screen best. They're more special. So see, it doesn't matter if we're talking about walking and going by car, or watching a movie in the cinema, or watching a movie at home. We've still got to get prefer and like and these forms correct with the to infinitive or with the ing word, the ing verb. And we can still add an element of feeling, how we feel. It's more exciting, it's cozier, it's bigger, better and cooler, it's more dramatic, it's quieter and more private, they're more special. We can still add this extra thing, and suddenly we sound very native, because we've not only made no basic errors with our present, but we've added a correct use of a comparative or a straight adjective afterwards to say how it was or how we felt. So, use the present simple verb with prefer and like correctly. Prefer plus to plus verb, prefer plus ing, or I like best, or I love plus ing. Use comparative adjectives correctly. It's faster, it's more relaxing, it's cozier, it's better. So this would be the formula, the magic formula for answering this kind of question type. So my point here is every single question you can reverse engineer, you can take apart and say, what's it really asking? Because it's not about the topic. It's about the grammar and words that Cambridge are asking you to use and testing if you can use them correctly. It's not really about watches or restaurants or the cinema. Let's look at another question type. Has a neighbour ever helped you? Has a neighbour ever helped you? What is this question really asking? Has a neighbour ever helped you? Possible answers, or the start of answers. Yes, a few years ago a neighbour helped me. Yes, neighbours have helped me a lot over the years. I don't think so. No, a neighbour has never helped me. Yes, Mr. Ma has helped me many times. Indeed, the old lady next door helps us all the time. Pause the video. What patterns do you see in these simple answers, these starts of answers? Get yourself to identify the key language items in the questions, and what kind of things would you put in your answers? What parts of speech, what tenses, what structures, anything. Look at those answers and see, what's the question really pulling out of me? What language is it pulling from me? Has a neighbour ever helped you? Yes, a few years ago, a neighbour helped me. Yes, neighbours have helped me a lot over the years. I don't think so. No, a neighbour has never helped me. Yes, my neighbour, Mr. Ma, has helped me many times. Indeed, the old lady next door helps us all the time. So what have we got? Expressions of time, adverbs of frequency, but these are expressions of time. Over the years, never, many times, all the time, a few years ago. And how are they being used? They're being used with, oh look, different past tenses. So this is a more complicated question type. A few years ago, a neighbour helped me. You've chosen to tell a story about one time. Yes, neighbours have helped me a lot over the years. You've decided to say, neighbours have helped many times. So we use the present perfect tense. I don't think so. No, a neighbour has never helped me. Present perfect tense, because something that began in the past, a situation, a neighbour in my life has never helped me. Something in the period of time in the past until now, present perfect, plus negative adverb of frequency, never. Yes, my neighbour, Mr. Ma, has helped me many times. Again, period of time in the past until now. He has helped me many times. Indeed, the lady next door helps us all the time. Bam, present simple. She still does. So again, Cambridge are basically asking, hey, can this person manage their tenses correctly? Can they tell the difference between the present simple and the present perfect and use the present tense, depending on how they choose to answer this question? And can they do this with good adverbs and expressions of time? Cambridge, again, are crafting these questions to pull language from you and then see how you differentiate between different forms and use the language flexibly to answer the question effectively. The high score is not for fancy vocabulary, and it's not about the topic. This is something I keep saying, and I hopefully am proving it with these simple examples, but these will be high-scoring examples. So, what do we learn from this? Time expressions, past simple, present perfect, present simple for habits. This is what the question's really asking. Can you do all of these things correctly? So, is there much topic vocabulary about neighbours? No. There's some topic vocabulary about people, yes. Basic collocations, the lady next door. Is that complex topic vocabulary? Is the question really about neighbours? Oh no, you're going to get a question about neighbours in the next test. No. There's no vocabulary specific to neighbours apart from maybe the word next door. It's all about how you put your language together. There's no complex topic vocabulary. You need to focus on the question type. Ask yourself, what is this question really asking? What language is it pulling out of me? And you can do this with all the questions in part one that you see in books, online, wherever. Don't think about the topic first and foremost. Think about the structures, the patterns, the lexics that they're asking you to show to the examiner. So the examiner can then say, yes, I confidently score this person across these fields a high score, because they know how to answer the question correctly. Right, so extending your answer again. Even in creating a longer answer, you still don't need much topic vocabulary. So again, you can use the technique I mentioned earlier, say how it felt or how it made you feel, the quality of something. So initial answer plus feelings and quality phrase. Adjectives of feelings and quality, basically. Used correctly. So, has a neighbour ever helped you? Yes, a few years ago a neighbour helped me. Yes, neighbours have helped me a lot over the years. I don't think so. No neighbour has ever helped me. Yes, my neighbour Mr. Ma, he has helped me many times. Indeed, the old lady next door helps us all the time. So, see how we can extend a couple of these kind of answers. Has a neighbour ever helped you? I rarely see the people who live next door to us. You could say that. I rarely see the people who live next door to us. They're quiet, introverted people. Or, it's a fairly private, quiet community we live in. Has a neighbour ever helped you? Yes, neighbours have helped me a lot over the years. They're kind, supportive people. They're always really helpful and generous. So see, we can add adjectives to describe people, feelings, personality, whatever, after an answer to extend it and add personality yourself, add character and show more language use. So the study approach would be overview the question type method I've been showing you again, analyze questions just like we've just done, write lots of short model answer sentences, check them, improve them, question again. What's the language coming out here? What are the structures? Extend the answers with today's technique. Add feelings and quality phrase. Read them aloud, record them, play them back. I think this is a brilliant way to practice high-scoring answers to part ones, because I've said before in this course, part one is very, very important. It's a strong foundation of all the grammar that you're going to basically need in the English language. It's just sectioned in a slightly shorter way than part 2 and 3. Still very important, still a massive foundation to getting a high score. So, part 1, different examples, different question. Look at these questions. Think about what they're really asking. Again, do this as homework, pause the video, take it home with you. What are they really asking? What language are they pulling from you? How has your town changed since you were a child? Have you ever learnt to play a musical instrument? What do you like the most about the school you went to? What do you dislike about parties or celebrations? What's the most important thing when planning a holiday? Which is better, a paper or an electronic map? Does a name have a special meaning in your culture? Wow, so a few different questions. Actually, they're all asking for different grammar, different lexis, different combinations of words to see if you can really get that. What are they asking for? What language are they trying to pull from you? So, a preparation and practice strategy. This is a good study method. It's nice to take a step back from the test and look at it in this way. And it really will help you, because it's not all about the topics. It's about patterns and structures and what Cambridge are trying to draw from you so the examiner can then score that language. Collecting words could be a way to extend. Like this? Excited, exciting, sad, depressed, depressing, thrilled, thrilling, exhausted, exhausting. Yes, it's really important to make sure you get the 2 different types of adjectives correct. You know, to describe how you felt and to describe how the quality of something. But is this a good way to collect words? Word lists alone are almost useless. Believe it or not, if you make word lists like this, they're not very useful. Psychologically, you will struggle remembering most of those words. You must, what? Why? We need to learn things in real phrases, in lexical chunks, in word groups. Then we will remember them. Fact. This, for example, these are my notes. I've got a piece of white paper and I've written down on the paper lots of phrases using the words I'd like to learn to use, all in context. Feelings and qualities. I was excited to see the ice sculptures. Short sentence. Obviously, I was in Harbin at the time. I like skiing. It's really exciting. He was excited when he saw the ice sculptures. Again, I'm practicing using different people here. He didn't really like reading. He says it's boring. He doesn't really like reading, sorry. I can't quite see my own writing there. They hate doing sports. They say it's really exhausting. They were exhausted after walking the Great Wall. We were frightened when we saw the horror film. You see where I'm coming from here. I've made a brainstorm diagram and I've used the adjectives that I want to practice and learn in the context of simple sentences that I can use in my speaking test. I could change horror film to dinosaur. You know, we were frightened when we saw the dinosaur. I was excited when I saw the Forbidden City for the first time. He was excited when he saw Notre Dame in Paris. They were exhausted after running the race. You know, you can change walking the wall, ice sculptures, horror film, for whatever else you need to put in those phrases. But learn the adjectives, practice the adjectives and the phrases, or whatever you're practicing, in this kind of way, not in the word list way. And you will remember them quicker, and you'll end up speaking in fluent chunks of language. You will not sound like a robot, you'll sound more like a native speaker. So let's stay with our adjectives examples for now. So how do we describe a town or city? This is an extra tip. Collect our adjectives in context. Use more than one. My city is a large industrial city in the north. My town is a small, quiet place in the south. I come from a huge, overpopulated city in the center of China. Wow, these sound native. Also, listen to the way I'm saying them. Sounding more fluent. We often describe things in twos or threes. 2 or 3 adjectives. Native speakers. Your rhythm starts to sound more native. Stressing the describing words, the adjectives, more will make you sound more native. So practice saying the sentences aloud every time. So actually I'm going to go back to that. My city is a large industrial city in the north. My town is a small, quiet place in the south. I come from a huge, overpopulated city in the center of China. Listen to my rhythm, my pace, and the fact that I'm stressing those dum-da-dum, those dum-da-dum, those 2 adjectives. I sound natural, I sound native. So this is important because it makes you sound more fluent. Sorry, think of things in 2s or 3s to describe your city. Take this as an exercise. Describe your city, think of 3 adjectives you would use, then put them in a short sentence. Pause this video and do this. Extending our answers. How often do you eat in restaurants? Oh, we're back to restaurants, yes. Because remember, it's not about the topic. I eat out 3 times a week with my friends from university. I really enjoy eating out. I'm really interested in international food. I'm interested in international food. I rarely eat out. To be honest, I like to eat at home. It's peaceful, calm and relaxing in my house. I don't like being in restaurants. They're often busy, crowded and noisy. Wow, I'm using 3 adjectives here. Might be too many. 2 or 3 is good. Sounds native. It's peaceful, calming and relaxing in my house. It's peaceful, calm and relaxing in my house. Restaurants are often busy, crowded and noisy. Rhythm, rhythm, rhythm. Using the adjectives to create rhythm to extend our answers to sound more fluent. So initial answer plus feelings and quality phrase. And I've just given you some tips about how you collect adjectives. Again, in phrases, not in individual word lists. And in phrases where you can describe things in groups of 2 or 3 adjectives sometimes when appropriate. So this is a kind of flexible method, but it's still a method you can pretty much use in multiple different answers. So study lots of test questions in this way. I've only given you a few examples. There are lots more question types in part 1. There are lots more question types across the test. Use a guide like Cambridge 14 or other question lists to find more questions and pick out question types. Identify the different question types. Analyze as many question types as possible. You'll find they cover almost all aspects of English grammar, patterns and structures. Practice with loads of examples, loads of examples. Thank you very much. This is the end of my methodology lesson. But I think you can use this methodology in your studies to really you can really get beyond into a 7 with this kind of way of thinking. Thank you very much.